Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Elaka here and I'm back with another brand new video. Today I bring you not much of a concise tutorial but a run through of how I make my Instagram videos. As you have seen either my Elaka Instagram or the TGC Magazine Instagram or the Fashion A&E Instagram or the ZMC Instagram, they all have frames or have some kind of artistic feel about them, and this is basically giving you a little bit of an insight of how I go about doing that. At a later date I will be providing a step-by-step tutorial of how to go about it from scratch in creating the frame all the way to creating or downloading videos, and obviously to the export part. And obviously for those who are part of my Patreon, I will be providing templates for you to be able to download from Patreon. And so let's get started with this. As you are looking at the video right now, it is a video of Keanu Reeves as he is basically performing his own stunts on the set of John Wick. I already have the video ready and I'm importing it onto Premiere Pro, which is the software that I use for pretty much all my editing for the most part. I have now just dragged and dropped it and added it to the timeline, and within the timeline right now I have actually placed it above the frame that is going to be around the video, and right now as you can see I've just dragged it beneath the frame. And so whilst it's beneath the frame, it allows me to be able to place the video behind the frame without basically the video taking over the frame. So right now what I'm doing is I've gone to the effects panel. The effects panel allows me to change the scaling and the positioning of either footage or pictures within the video. And right now as you can see I'm scaling it up so that it can fit at the bottom and at the top. And then right now I've clicked Alt and basically just slid it up with the mouse, which allows me to duplicate. So if you want to duplicate any footage or anything like that, all you have to do is click on the Alt whilst you've selected the item, click on Alt and then basically push whatever the item is to the direction you need it to. In this case I just wanted it to duplicate directly above it, so I pushed it up and that's what you get. And I went and I rescaled it. After I rescaled it, if you notice I typed in blur in the search in the effects on the left hand side, and blur, Gaussian blur showed up, and I was able to basically click on it and drop it onto the second layer of the footage, remembering that the footage is identical. And with that I actually was able to basically stretch out that particular footage and blur it out. That way the background is just not dark, and that's how every time when you see almost like a blurry version of the same video that you're seeing in the front, this is pretty much the effect that they use. And so what I've actually done is I've just removed the previous footage that was within the frame, and then I've replaced it with a John Wick footage. And right now I'm just basically making sure everything is in position. The next thing I've done right now is I've actually zoomed in. The zooming in is for purposes of me being able to type things and actually see them clearly. And then I've gone back to Instagram to look at the footage, look at the information that's available, because remember this is a repost. This is not actually me posting this content myself that I've created, so it's important that I'm able to credit the people who created the footage, because that's important to avoid copyrights under the fair use license. And that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm reposting it, so reposting and crediting it basically will not warrant me a copyright strike basically. And what I've done right now is I have actually pressed on the Windows key and the full stop, or the period as some call it, and that automatically brings up the pop-up of emojis. With the pop-up of emojis I actually found the emoji of the camera, which is what I'm replacing with the word camera. Rather than using the word, I thought to shorten it, let me just use the emoji and then just credit who I need to credit, which is Lionsgate. And so with this particular feature, as you can see, it was already there, but that's actually the text feature, which I will go into detail in the next tutorial. And once you are selected on the text features actually appear in the effects control panel, where you can be able to change the background, you can change the fill, you can add a stroke, you can be able to change the font type, the font size, and you can even change the opacity of it. And so right now I've got a slight background on it, which I reduced the opacity to, and then I'm just positioning it where I feel aesthetically it looks more pleasing and not aggy. Eventually I end up removing the background entirely because I felt there was no need for it, because you can see the Lionsgate and the camera quite clearly. Then I go on next to click on the lower third wording that's there so that I can replace it. And as you can see, I put BTS, which means behind the scenes, Keanu Reeves, and I think I wrote something along the lines of doing his own stunts on the set of John Wick, if I'm not mistaken. So let me see, this was like literally like about a year ago or so when I actually created this video. So as I'm narrating this, I'm trying to remember what I actually said, and I'm trying to keep up with the video. I don't know why I didn't make a voiceover for it at the time of actually recording, but that's neither here nor there. Let's carry on. Okay, so I go back to double check if there's anything else that I need from Instagram. I don't see anything else that I need. All I think I was checking, I think possibly, is to copy and paste the caption, because it's going to be a repost and I'll be reposting the caption itself. And so now the next step is to make sure that everything is in position and ready for export. As you can see, I'm actually replaying the footage back. Right now it's on mute, simply because, well, basically me doing this voiceover now, and if it plays back with the sound, that's going to be a problem. And so right now, as you can see, I'm playing it all back to make sure everything is playing fine, everything is showing up as it's supposed to show up, all the way to the end. Obviously at the end you can see that the frame kind of carries on. That's the pink bar that you can see that's carrying on its own. That's the frame that I actually placed the footage underneath. But what I'm about to do next is just reposition the ending of the footage to align with everything else that's going to, so that nothing chops up without and leaves me with a blank screen basically. And so as you can see right now, what I'm doing is I'm repositioning the in and out. The in and out is basically something that I like to utilize when I've got footage that's longer than it needs to be, but I actually only want to export a portion of it, and that's what you normally use in Premiere Pro. Use the in and out, and that's what I was sliding there. And so right now I'm ensuring that everything is in the same line as my out, which is where you can see the blue line, and I am rescaling back basically, or repositioning the frame so that it also ends right at the end where it's supposed to. And then with that, as you can see, I've got the transition dipped to black. And so the thing with transitions, if the transition is going over certain sections that have additional layers, you have to make sure that the transition does not take effect whilst other footage is still visible, because that tends to look tacky and ugly. So you have to be very, very careful with this, and that's why you see I'm zooming in and out quite a lot so that I can be more precise. Zooming in and out is something I highly recommend whenever you are doing video editing, because it allows you to really get every single frame and cut off any frame basically down to the millisecond, you know, in order to get your footage right. So right now, as it stands, the blue section that you can see that I'm messing with right now is the TGZ spinning logo that you can see spinning. I was just basically, it had gaps in it, so I was just stretching out the other part of the footage so that it fits entirely as the footage is going on all the way to the end. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the next part here is, I noticed that the dip to black kind of the transition dip to black kind of comes in a little bit sooner than I need the footage, so other parts kind of remain and other parts disappear, and I am basically fine-tuning it by trying to basically making sure that the transition section is actually closer to the end of the footage rather than a little bit further out. And so that's pretty much what you are seeing right now. The next part I think that I'm going to be working on is just making sure that after I have added all the transition bits, I'm going to realign everything at the very end so that it is all good and ready to be exported without it basically looking a bit off. You know when you see footage on Instagram or social media where it cuts off quite badly, it was mainly edited well, then it just cuts off really badly. Sometimes it's as a result of either not putting transitions, or putting transitions in the wrong place, or not aligning the layers in the same place so much that one basically ends before the other, and then you find pieces are disappearing, and it's not, and because it's not staged that way, it doesn't even disappear in sync. And so now that that everything is kind of done, I'm happy with it, I click on file and I click on export. So I am about to export this entire footage. As you can see on export, I always make sure it's the format of H.264 because that one always brings out the YouTube format or the MP4 format that you need. And then obviously wherever it is that you're going to be exporting it, go and look for the folder that you are going to be exporting your video to. I obviously went to Global Zambian Magazine, TGZ TV show, videos, and then I've created one for Instagram so that it specifically is for only Instagram videos. I click on there and then I'm just going to rename the file, and I think I named it John Wick, Keanu Reeves doing on stunts, because when it comes to the video itself, because the video itself is not visible, I don't have to worry about writing full sentences. I just have to make sure that I use the keywords that are important, because believe it or not, how you label your videos and your thumbnails, etc., does have an effect on the algorithm. It does have an effect on the metadata when people are actually searching for certain footage. So keywords are always very important. I must say I probably should have actually added Lionsgate to it, because that would have been a plus when people are actually searching for anything in regards to Keanu Reeves and basically Lionsgate, I suppose, or John Wick, actually, for that matter. You know, the good thing is, because this footage is really short, as you can see, it took less than 2 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. It's about 40 seconds right now, but it took less than 2 minutes for it to be able to finish the export. Although sometimes, even if it tells you, oh, it's got 30 seconds, you find that it takes almost a minute in those 30 seconds. And that's the kind of patience you have to practice when it comes to doing video editing and anything to do with like creative type of editing. It can be quite tedious, but if you have the patience and if you have the eye, you will be able to produce some really great content. And so right now, as I'm talking to you, it's on 14 seconds. So, but obviously 14 seconds as I've been talking right this moment should have been over by now, but as you can see, it's finished. So as it is going through its export, I decided to go over and copy some of my hashtags and my basic templates that I normally use on TGZ magazine. And since the footage, as you can see, the footage has finished, I'm going to go and I clicked on basically add. There's like a plus sign on Instagram, because you can upload things from the internet now, from a browser, from a computer. You don't have to use the app on the phone anymore. I just clicked on that, and then I clicked on select compute from computer, and then it's actually uploading, as you can see. And then I basically click on next. After I click on next, if I'm not mistaken, as you all know, Instagram does allow you to actually choose a thumbnail that you want to be basically your thumbnail in the front. You don't have to. You can create a thumbnail, but you know, for the most part I try not to, because it's just unnecessary time consuming. You just have to find a place within the footage that looks good enough to be able to act as a thumbnail. The other way you can be able to create a thumbnail actually is to actually create a still picture, or add a still picture at the very beginning of your video, so that when people see it, that's what they're gonna see first, you know. That's another option. If you're using the app does allow you to easily add a profile picture or some kind of a thumbnail picture, so that people will see that before they go and click on the video. So here I've selected the section that I need, and now I'm about to write the caption. The caption, obviously, I collected it from the post that you just saw, because I collected all the hashtags. I'm removing any unnecessary hashtags that do not basically marry with the current post, because those were post specific. Only some of them were generic, like TGZ News, TGZ M, TGZ, the Global Zambian Magazine, TGZ TV News, UK Zambian Magazine, Keanu Reeves is what I'm now typing in, John Wick, John Wick 4, John Wick, you know, Lionsgate, all the necessary tags that are relevant to the particular post. And then the next part, after I finish putting the hashtags, is I'm going to go over to the very top of the caption, and that's where I'm going to be changing the, I think, latest news. I think I'm going to be probably adding John Wick, but also the section where it says, you know, for more news, that as I'm typing right now, most cases when I do post something that's on the website, I always say read more on, because you can't put the whole article on Instagram. It's a little bit too much. But otherwise, if it's just an Instagram only post, I tend to write for more news, entertainment, this, that, and the other. You can go over on tgzmag.com. As you can see, I'm doing what I mentioned earlier that I was going to be doing, updating the main the initial basically hashtag tgzlatest, and then I'm putting the hashtag repost, because technically it is a repost from the Lionsgate Instagram account. And then I went and I took Lionsgate's quote, because again it's a repost, and then I tagged Lionsgate and I basically put the quotation marks, because that's what they said, saying I can't wait for the next chapter when we get more of this, and they put hashtag John Wick. So I kind of left it as is, and then I just double checked to make sure all the spellings, everything is in place, and then I basically go ahead and I share it when I am sure. And after I share it, you're gonna see if it's successful. Instagram is going to automatically tell you your post has been shared, as it just did just now. And then all you have to do now is go back to the post, or just refresh the page, and when you refresh the page, you will find that the new post is there. As you can see right now, I'm clicking on it, you can see everything, the hashtags are on there, the caption is on there, everything pretty much is working, and Bob's your uncle. And that's it really, you know, nothing complicated. All you need is a basic frame, and then you are good to go. Otherwise, until next time, I'm gonna have to love you and leave you and wish you all the blessings that God has to give. Until next time, for me, it's take care and goodbye.